Hello, everybody. It's Phil Gribbon, and I'm back with the SLAS President podcast. And this is my final podcast following a really exciting year as the SLAS President. And I think I'd like to sort of spend this time thinking about some things that we achieved in the past, and also think about the future to a certain extent. And I've got a very special guest who's going to help us do that. So, as everybody will be aware, there was a new slate of members that was approved in November, and this group will begin their terms on January the 1st in 2026. The new board members are Melanie Leveridge, Brinton Seashaw Ludlaw, and Hervé Thiriac, and I really wish them well. I also want to take an opportunity to thank our outgoing board members, Maria Francesca Scalisa, for her enormous contributions during the term, as well as Zach Godleben for stepping in to serve an additional year on the board. And our exciting guest is Melissa Crisp from Eli Lilly, who joins me here on my final podcast today as the new incoming president of SLAS. So hello, Melissa, and many congratulations on your new role.
Thank you so much, Phil. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you over the last couple of years, and especially last year with you as this past year, actually, with you as president. I think you've accomplished a lot of really great things. I had a couple of questions for you. One is, looking back over your presidency, what do you think is what accomplishment are you most proud of? How do you think that has really kind of fed into the evolution of how SLAS is going?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Melissa. It's been the presidency in 2025 has been a fantastic year for me, and I think there were many things from the meetings in San Diego, as well as our event in Europe, that were real highlights for me, as well as other opportunities to join meetups and places like Vienna. But for me, I think that the singular highlight, and you have to indulge me a little bit here, is the SLAS Europe meeting that we held here in Hamburg, which is a place I call my hometown since I think 2008 or so. So I've lived here quite a long time. And it was a really fantastic occasion. We had record number of attendees, and in terms of the conference attendees, as well as folks involved in the conference and in the trade show. And it was a really great event. And there were some real particular things there. Before that event, we thought quite deeply about how we wanted to present Hamburg and how we wanted to enthuse the community over here, especially in Europe, to make that trip to the north of Germany. And as part of that, we formed a small team, the Gemeinschaft, which is essentially the home team here in Germany. And what that was is a collection of scientists, technologists, industry people. We had about 15 to 20 people meeting every week. And our job was to try and find where the curious people were out there who would really benefit from coming to attend the SLAS meeting. So we systematically reached out to different communities across Europe, informed them about the meeting. And I think that was really helpful in trying to sort of build an identity to the meeting. And I think that's something that we were really successful in doing that. And the feedback we got from all of the participants, from the scientific aspects, from the technological aspects, from the organization and the running of the show, I think was really excellent. There's still some areas to improve, and I think I want to be part of that improvement. So I've volunteered myself to help when the meeting comes back to Hamburg in 2027, and hopefully we'll be able to build on it and make it even better. So yeah, the SLAS Europe meeting in Hamburg in this year really was a highlight for me personally.
Fantastic. I think you really made a profound impact on the way SLAS Europe turned out this year. And I think that putting this kind of a think tank together was really a fantastic idea. It was a really good turnout this year. One other question I had was, every presidency has its challenges, and can you point to any challenge or a moment of learning that you think has really influenced the way SLAS is moving forward?
So I think maybe again, I'll try to be personal here about what this has meant to me. But again, coming back to the SLAS Europe meeting, and what I tried to do here, I have a team of about 30, 40 people here in Hamburg, and another team in Berlin. And what I said to them quite early on is, I really want you to come to the meeting and meet your colleagues, find out about what's happening in our area of science where we work as an organization. And that was challenging. We had to find the budget. There was no freebies, even I'm the president, so all these people paid their own way. And what really kind of the big learning moment for me was one of my technical colleagues who's worked here for about 10 years. A few days after the meeting, he came up and he said, that was one of the greatest experiences of my professional life, because that individual hadn't really had the opportunity to travel to international meetings, to go to sort of experience the breadth of the technologies, all of the talks that were there, all of the different interactions and the communities, and build those networks for himself. And he was really impressed by that, and that was fantastic for him. And what I learned from that is that these meetings are great for us in these leadership positions, and we fly from meeting to meeting and meet our old friends, but actually they mean a lot more to individuals and those who are maybe at different and earlier stages of the career. So what I learned from that is a message, I think, for anybody who's leading a lab, who has a responsibility, is think about using the SLAS and the educational services and the conferences as a way to sort of train your staff, keep them up to date on what's important in our field. And I think you'll see enormous rewards from that. And we've seen waves and ripples coming from that experience throughout the year. People are thinking about automation. We've actually had a revamp of our automation, but it's been more informed than it might have been in our particular capital equipment procurement process, because we really saw what was going on. So I think what I learned was it's not just about me, and it's more about the members of the team, and what can SLAS do for your team, and it will help your organization in the end.
Couldn't agree more. I have one more question. Well, actually, a couple more questions. What shifts have you seen in the life sciences and automation over the last few years? I guess not just the last year as president, but the last few years as board member, that have kind of changed the landscape, and how should SLAs kind of prepare themselves for that, and what kind of impact is that going to have?
Yeah, I think it's a truism at the moment, but the impact of data science and machine learning on what we've done has just been so profound, and it's really accelerated in the last 18 months, a year or so, that I've seen. And you know me by now. Melissa, I try to use these personal examples, but we had some very good news this week. We were successful in a grant, which was just so I worked for a research organization here in Germany, the Fraunhofer, and we found out yesterday that we were successful in a grant which was run by our national funding body, the BMFTR, and the grant topic was the application of AI in drug discovery and development, and that came out in April. And I heard from when they gave the results, there were 114 different proposals came in around that from different academic groups, and also in collaborations between industry and academia. So there were multiple examples of those. And we were lucky enough to be part of one of the winning grants. I think 10 overall got funded. So we want to fund more, or they should be funding more, but we were lucky enough to be part of that. But when I look at how we structured that proposal, and it was in the area of antimicrobial drug discovery, and using AI methods to come up with quicker and more efficient predictions of compounds which would be active against gram negatives. I see that the whole design of that project is completely different from what I would have done 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I would have looked for what's the biggest library I can screen. Do I have a vague idea about what the compound properties should be, but I don't really know, so I'm going to screen everything I've got. And this time we're looking at focused library sets. We're looking at generating machine learning and AI models in order to analyze those sets upfront. We're working closely with Enamine, who many will know, and they're giving us access to their real collection of synthetically accessible compounds. And we're building in these design, make, test, analyze cycles. And that's just in 1 year that I've seen this change. And there is significant investment going on. And we are part of that that change at the moment, and that is this, I think, happening not just here in Germany, but all over Europe and all over the rest of the world, as we retool ourselves and reconfigure organizations to be able to most effectively use the opportunity provided by data sciences, machine learning, and integration more closely of data into decision making and into the whole hit finding and lead optimization process.
I'm stepping into some big shoes with you vacating the presidency. And I really appreciate what you're leaving behind. But what advice or insights can you give me going forward?
So I think, as I might have already mentioned once or twice before, I got a lot of advice from some previous presidents when when I took on this role during this year. And I got the sense that, some of them, may not have fulfilled all of their items on their wish list when they started, and they were sort of telling me a little bit about it. So my conclusion for that is not to take anybody's advice, and for you to act really in a kind of fearless way. Yeah. I think if you've got good ideas about how you can improve the function of the society, the efficiency of the society, and the the offering to our members, and also the experienced members. If you've got those good ideas and you can bring the board along with you, then go with it and just do it. Yeah, that's my advice, really. And I think you've got a great team, and the rest of the board is full of very talented people, and as well as the new people who could come on board. I'm really pleased to see those new names coming on board, those new faces, and also a fantastic professional team as well. So you'll have everything around you that you need, but just act without fear. Bring the rest of the team along you, and I'm sure you'll do an amazing job. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching from the wings in 2026.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Melissa, for those really insightful questions. I think I've got a few things just to tease out of you and find out how you see the future in your role. So what's most excites you about what's coming in this next year, and how do you also see SLAS's role in be evolving to meet the needs of scientists, sample managers, lab managers, and innovators, and our entire community?
I guess I see it as sort of an advancement of the connectivity that SLAS offers. So I kind of see it as a multifaceted connectivity piece that I'm kind of excited about. So someone has spent many, many years at the intersection of discovery and automation. I see that SLAS is really uniquely positioned to kind of lead that discussion where AI and ML, they aren't replacing scientists, but they are helping to advance those capabilities. And we're kind of, how can we partner better with things like, these new technologies like AI? So I guess some things I'm kind of excited about along those lines are, one is kind of how we're able to create more pathways for early career scientists to kind of move forward. So things like our workforce accelerator. So a critical part of this connectivity vision, is creating a workforce that is more bilingual, trilingual even, that consists of, scientists that are able to speak, in computational terms, or even, chemists are, able to speak, in different languages per se. So think of it in terms of, say, if you're using AI ML, you're able to tell, when that violates a basic thermodynamics, or you can actually understand why data structures matter for analyzing high throughput screens, or why edge effects matter, from an automation perspective, because they understand the biology piece of it. So I think that building this kind of workforce is kind of sort of passion of mine, and of SLAS in general too. So I'm so excited about that. And so I'm thinking of, we want to be able to not just respond to industry needs, but actually prepare our next generation for kind of what's coming. And I think this is where we need to stand in that case. So and I've seen it myself. I've seen it whenever people are able to speak different languages. They're so much more valuable in the organization, and they solve problems faster. They're able to interpret. They can translate. The translators, they're able to translate from one person's needs to another person's actions, and I've seen that over and over again, and I really I see the need for that as well coming in as we take on as we're hiring more people. This is what we're looking for, and the possibility of maybe even influencing the credentials of universities, things like that. So anything where somebody walks into a lab or a member's lab, if they come in with an SLAS credential, then we would know they can contribute on day 0 instead of, well, day 1 instead of day 100.
Yep.
So that I think that's really exciting, to think about, how we can kind of help move, people along in their careers and really help escort them along the way. I guess other things are like, how we can strengthen vendor and end user relationships. Also looking at things that how can we, again, on this whole connectivity idea, connecting industry and academia a little bit more. So, for example, maybe a challenge that industry has is something that somebody in the academic sector has been working on for a long time. They've been able to put the time and effort and the experience into that, and they could actually enable something on the industrial side. Or, industry challenges may result in funding of academic research projects. And I guess the last thing in terms of connectivity is, this making sure that, SLAS remains the premier forum where we all come to, where breakthrough technologies meet practical implications, I guess. And that's because, members aren't just doing automation anymore. They're not just, executing at the lab bench. They're doing things like closed loop optimization. They're trying new ways of miniaturization. They're testing new technologies, new modalities. They're playing around with the DMTA cycle, which is something that our Nexus XP is really all about. So I think as long as we are here to support it, and this is exactly what we're trying to do, I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. That's my experience as well. The SLAS is really a multidisciplinary community that is willing to learn from their colleagues and from others just outside of their field so that they can do their job better. It's it's I think it's a fantastic organization and society to be part of. So that I guess that comes to the next question is how do we as the SLAS, what do you think are the greatest opportunities for us as an organization to deepen our community engagement and then even think about expanding potentially our global footprint beyond the areas that we've traditionally served?
Well, I see a lot of opportunities in our connected global community. I think one thing that we can do is we can move beyond the traditional conference-centric model to kind of create a more year-round type of connectivity with people. And I think one place that's getting started is a lot with these regional meetups. We have meetups in Vienna and Paris and the US and different cities. And I'd love to see a lot of growth from that and people taking advantage of those regional meetups to kind of build regional collaborations and maybe creating mentorships. And I think the reason that's really important to me is I've felt it myself, where I've been able to I've kind of leveraged my SLAS network more locally by going out into the San Diego community, where they've actually other colleagues have shown me the ropes on how to build automation systems around scientific workflows, and they just opened their doors to me, and it's been really fantastic. And it's also nice to have people nearby that are kind of like-minded. They have the same challenges and the same visions that we have, and it's a way to forge friendship. So I have friends that from institutions nearby where we go on bike rides together and we talk science. and we're all screeners together, for example. And so it's really fun. And I guess, some of these regional meetups could expand, even further, maybe into Asia, so that's some things we could do to kind of expand the global reach. So, again, I see the SLAS as sort of like the celebration of how we're engaging, year round with one another. Maybe, they come together to connect, with a global network at the conference, and then they show up at the conference, and that's where they showcase what they've done regionally, and then they can invite people from across the globe to their next innovation. And I also see opportunities to expand beyond, what our current membership looks like, sort of more inclusive, and that it maybe look more orthogonally to what we're doing. So, I think a lot of our leaders are going to come from areas like data science and, computational areas. And so if we can kind of start extending that to them, or maybe have programming or along those lines, there's some opportunities. I think about like maybe like a hackathon, and I've heard of other organizations doing things like this, where they have a hackathon with scientists and AI experts and maybe hardware developers come together to solve a problem. And something we could maybe host that. I don't know, but these are all really good opportunities. Virtual, building virtual collaborations across the globe, things like that, and also maybe bringing in, maybe we could appeal to other industries that use robotics in a new way for automation in the lab, things like that.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. And on the meetup story, I think I remember being at a meetup in Frankfurt last year. We had about 50, 60 people come along to that, and that was very good as a start. But this year, I think just back in October, I think we had over 250 people attended a meetup in the Munich area for the SLAS. It's a fantastic way to engage with communities outside of the normal cycle of the conferences, which I think is really
Absolutely.
important. So
I've got a lot of good feedback on, from people that have attended those meetups. So I'd love to see more of that engagement.
yeah, that sounds good. So finally, is there a personal goal that you're looking to achieve as the president? So maybe that reflects your specific leadership style, or is there an experience that you want members to have under your tenure as the SLAS president in 2026?
I guess the experience I want members to have is knowing that they have like a direct line to support innovation. We're here. I'm stepping into this role, and I know you're experiencing this too. There's a lot of funding uncertainties. There are policy shifts. There are questions about, restrictions on collaborations, more globally. And at the same time, we're kind of stepping into unprecedented areas with AI and ML. And I think that, SLAS can't solve all the problems there, but we can actually equip our members to sort of navigate that more. When federal funding tightens up, maybe this is when, automation becomes even more critical. It's more of a survival than it is for, just everyday luxury type of thing. So it becomes something that people need more. In our global network, this is an alternative way to work across, boundaries, when there are restrictions from international collaborations, who knows? But, when federal funding is getting tight, this is a really good opportunity for maybe industry academic partnerships that SLAs could actually catalyze. So I guess I want to be thought of, I want to see SLAs start to feel even smaller in a way, but thinking bigger. Like we're far more connected than we ever have been. We're supporting one another even more, but still thinking much bigger technologically, and in terms of innovation. I guess my leadership style has always been about integration, I guess is the right word for everything. Kind of building bridges between biology, engineering, or established practices and new ways of doing things, or building a diverse team. And I kind of want to see that. I guess that would reflect on how I would want to engage with the membership as well. So I want people at the end of the day to, I want a graduate student to feel just as connected to SLAS as a senior director that's been going there for years and years, and feel like this is their home.
That sounds great. And having heard that and the other things, I'm absolutely certain that the SLAS board under your leadership is in great hands for 2026 and beyond. And I think they're really lucky to have you there. And I wish you the best of luck in this role, and enjoy it. It's fun. I had a fantastic time, and I hope you will too. So all the best, and I'll see you in Boston. Thank you very much. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.